Hello, property lovers. Welcome to Property Focus, show your window into the world of architecture, building construction, and real estate. Now, one of the most famous maxims that govern the administration of land is whoever who owns soil owns that piece of land all the way to the skies. This means that you have the rights to not only the plot of land itself, but also the air above and the ground below to some extent. Interestingly, developers in urban areas have resorted to building multi-story buildings as they seek to fully utilize on the high cost of land and construction that make housing beyond reach for the majority in certain areas. Today we look at the application process of accessing a mortgage and mortgages in Kenya with Banking Retail Director Edith Chumba. But before that, what brilliant developers in Nairobi have done in how to buy an apartment with property developer Farhana Hassanali. But right before, a review of what an apartment in a high-end area should offer that gives many the ability to have a great address. So let's have a look, get comfy, get your tea or coffee, enjoy the show. I'm your host, Peter Ngigi. Think about buying a car. You need to ask the hard questions. Get a peep under the hood and drive just to ensure all the functionalities are operational. For an apartment, you have to flick the lights, flush the loo, check all the knobs to see what happens. Now we're at an exquisite addition to the suburban surround in an enviable city fringe location, offering diverse experiences, which sits on 22 acres of land in one of the high-end areas in Nairobi. We're going to have a chat and look at what to expect when buying a 4-bedroom apartment. Let's have a chat with Sadia on the same. And welcome to Property Focus, Sadia.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for having me.
So what should one expect when purchasing an apartment in Nairobi?
You know, what they say in real estate that location is the most important thing when you're purchasing real estate. However, I'd also like to add that important things to look for are things like amenities, closeness to commercial hubs, and also any provisions that the property can provide that enhances the experience for the person living in it. Some of the bare minimums nowadays are gyms, swimming pools, elevators, and lifts.
Now, in terms of interior finishes, what should one expect?
Most modern houses today are open plan, which is at an international standard, and that's something that I think is important. You have DSQs, service kitchens, and for me the most important thing to look at is how efficiently is the plan or the layout of the house. What you don't want to have is long corridors, which is an inefficient use of space. So you're getting better value for money if you buy a place that allows you to utilize every corner of the house.
And what about the design? Should it be modern?
Absolutely. You want to invest in a property that is modern today but timeless, so that in 10 years' time your property still maintains its value.
Let's talk about ROIs. What should one expect? Should one expect 8%, 10%, 11%?
So this really depends on the size of the unit. Smaller units such as studios and 1-bedrooms have very good rental yields. You're looking at an average of about 8%, and you can particularly add 1% or 2% if you're buying in a mixed-use development, because those are low in supply in Kenya. And then on the bigger units, 3 and 4 bedrooms, you're looking at a standard of 4 to 5%. Now that's not really a bad thing. The good thing with bigger units is that they appreciate in value over time. So when you're buying a smaller unit, you're going for a higher rental yield. When you're buying a bigger unit, you're looking at your capital gains over time.
So what's the difference in terms of return on investments between the two?
So one will give you your rental yield. Your rental yield is basically based on the price that you pay and how much rent that you get out of it. For the bigger units, the asset tends to appreciate by 10, 15, or 20%, maybe every year after completion. So you're looking at an appreciation in value for the bigger unit, but you're looking at your smaller unit to give you that passive income over a long period of time.
Now, buyers are always advised to always read the fine print. What's your take on this?
I absolutely agree. Every purchaser needs to be aware of the terms that they're getting into when they're buying a property. The best advice I can give somebody is to get a very good lawyer who has a proven track record of property purchase, sale agreements, because they are going to be your eyes and they'll be able to see things that you may not be able to see. and protect you as a purchaser in the sale agreement. The other thing is to look for a reputable selling agent who can better advise you on your property journey.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for coming on to Property Focus.
Thank you so much for having me.
There you have it from Sadia. Now, if you want to purchase an apartment, you know exactly what to look for. Anything less than that is substandard. Coming up next, we've got a property research and development analyst and also a banker on how to engage on a mortgage and what is the application process for it. Stay tuned. Don't touch that dial. We'll be back right after the break. Welcome back from the break, and thanks for keeping it Property Focus. Buying an apartment is probably one of the most expensive investments that you will make. It has a strong emotional attachment because that's where you'll spend most of your time, raise your children even, so you really have to get it right. Let's hear from the CEO and developer, Farhana Hassanali, herself on this. And welcome to Property Focus, Farhana.
Thank you.
So tell us, what do buyers look for when wanting to purchase an apartment?
There's obviously a number of criteria that buyers go through. Of course, the most common one that I've seen as a first step is people look at location. You know, the age-old location for real estate, that hasn't changed in any way. And people always look at that as the first thing. You know, what's the best location to be in? A location that's either growing or it suits their needs if there's somebody who are coming in as an owner-occupier. So first, location. The next criteria most people would look at is kind of together the number of bedrooms and the size. So what is this unit offering and does it meet my needs? So that could be needs for an owner-occupier, somebody who's planning to live there, or an investor, in which case they would then be looking at, is this kind of size what the market wants? This is what I can rent out easily. So that's more or less the second criteria that buyers should and do look for. The third criteria within the apartment, I think buyers are getting more and more sophisticated, developments are getting more and more sophisticated. So people are looking at finishes a lot more, you know, what is the apartment offering, what kind of finishes, how well are they done. This is becoming a larger and larger component of the decision-making process for many buyers. Then when you come sort of to the outside of the apartment, the fact that you know, people live in these communities, the benefit of them is obviously that you get a lot more facilities than you would get if you just had a little house on your own. So now buyers look at, you know, what does the apartment offer on the outside? The swimming pool, is there gyms, is there gardens, play areas, things like that that sort of enhance lifestyle and living are big components of the decision making. And I would say now that, you know, people have gone through this experience of living in apartments and seen how it works. A lot of people want to see what the management structure is like, what the service charges are like. So aside from buying an apartment, what is the next cost that comes with it? You know, like what service fees do you pay towards management and maintenance so that you can identify what is the real cost of buying that apartment. So I'd say those are the key criteria that people look at.
How does one know they're dealing with a legitimate property agent?
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one because obviously there's been a lot that's been happening in the recent years that have made a lot of buyers wary. You know, I'd say the first thing is always look to established companies because, you know, how long has the company that you're working with been in operation? How well have they been serving people? So are you getting referrals? Have you actually heard of someone buying from this company successfully, happily? That's a very, very important point. The other thing to look at is, you know, what is their track record? What have you heard? Have you seen projects completed by them, well completed? That's a big one. And then also look for certification. You know, this is something that people don't ask for a lot, but is the company a registered estate agent? Are they actually supposed to be trading? So that you're sure that the people you're dealing with are really going to deliver what you want at the end of it.
Now, buying apartments in high-end areas is sort of a new trend. Skylines are now soaring and changing over in the upscale areas. What's your take on that?
It's been a very, I think, a very good change in market trends. A lot of it was pushed, I would say, demand-based, because what has happened in Kenya, and I think, as you know, is property ownership is very much a Kenyan culture, you know. So there's been sort of, as over the years, increased demand for units, but units at an affordable price. Now, what's happened with previously areas where you couldn't build apartments, you know, you look at areas like Lavington, where the zoning was always townhouses, it meant that, you know, houses in this area were very expensive, 60, 70, 80 million, and that kind of priced out a lot of the market. So now by developers sort of being able to put up apartments, you know, it dilutes the cost of land and it allows buyers to come in and get these units at a much more affordable price. From the buyer's point of view, you know, they get access to a very good location, a very good address, you know, they get access to good facilities around them. So it's a really nice way of stepping up into the real estate market without a very high cost.
Give us your parting shots.
I would say for buyers looking to come into the apartment market, it's a trend that's increasing a lot. I find there's a lot of preference for one-level living. There's people who, you know, understand that yes, it's an apartment. It may not have my traditional, you know, 50 by 100 boundary, but the fact that the outside is well managed, it's well maintained for you, it's somehow an easier lifestyle, and I think it makes it a very attractive investment for anyone. So for anyone who's looking to come in, it's definitely worthwhile. Of course, make sure you do all your due diligence and check all the boxes before you make the step.
Billboard is up next in the materials profile, thereon after. Stay tuned.
Have you ever thought of owning a home at the Kenyan coast? What if we told you you could? Pazuri at Vipingo is a master-planned holiday and residential estate strategically located in Vipingo off the Mombasa-Malindi Highway. The estate consists of 372 affordable and luxurious units with a choice of 2, 3 and 4 bedroom villas, and residents enjoy easy access to the amenities of the adjacent world-class Vipingo Ridge. Pazuri at Vipingo is ideal for holiday makers, investors, diplomats and homeowners.
Now, rarely can you talk about buying an apartment and not bring in the financing aspect of it. Besides other elements, how do you access a mortgage and what's the application process? Let's have a chat with Edith Chumba as we find out more on this. Let's go. And wonderful. Welcome to Property Focus, Edith Chumba.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. What does it mean to be appraised?
The appraisal process actually is in 4 phases. The first phase is where the client identifies the property that they want to purchase. The second phase is when then they approach the bank to do the preliminary assessment in terms of whether they qualify for the property that they're buying. The price, they'll give us basic information, the price, the location. And because this is our client, we are able then to do assessment, just to confirm to them that they qualify. The third phase is where now we give a letter of intent and we tell them what we require from a documentation perspective. Remember, they are buying this property from somebody, so we need them to give us a copy of the title deed, and of course their own details from the PIN, the KRA PIN, and the identification copies. Where they are a couple buying, so we need the spouse's information as well. The KYC documents. Then the last part is where we now then give them the offer letter, which they sign, and they bring it back to us, and then we lodge all this, to the lawyers to begin the due diligence process. That means going to the land, the valuation report, looking at the valuation report. And then they bring back everything to us once, the charge process has happened. They bring back everything to us. And then at that point, when we are happy with everything, we release the money.
Being in a very low-touch business environment, how are you ensuring that both employees and clients stay protected?
Yeah, I think, this COVID situation has really taught us a lot of things. For us as a bank, the primary thing was to cushion our clients and our staff. And so the first thing we did was to go back and review our processes and ensure that they are within the protocols that we've been given, the social distancing, so we are limiting physical engagement. So we had to automate the process and digitize the application process. So clients can upload through a PDF convertible sort of process for us to be able to evaluate the application. That was one, and that largely is protecting our staff and also the customer. Then the second part is we played a role in the credit relief program. We gave our clients 3 programs. The first one was a repayment holiday where they had to take up to 6 months, just not paying anything. The second part, they had a choice to only pay interest. And then the last part is a moratorium where we took a 1-year, extension of tenor. And then what that does is that it, gives you the flexibility to pay a low amount. Now, in total, we managed to give a total of 5 billion Kenya shillings for this relief program. So really, that's how we cushioned our clients and staff.
Now, mortgage defaults were at about 21 billion in 2018, up 41% in 2019. As a business, how are you staying afloat?
I think as a business, the critical thing is, the control measures that we put in place, to support customers. Because remember, the mortgage tenor is long. It's 20 years. It's a journey. And I tell you what, nobody knows what would happen. There are risks. So the things that we do is, partner with insurance companies to cover, our customers in an event that there's permanent disability or death. And so with that cover, then we know for sure that the buyer will not lose the property. But in an event that somebody did not take advantage of, say, insurance cover, and they lost their job, and they're not able to continue repaying the loan, what is important is don't run away as a customer. Come and meet with your bank. Discuss, solve this problem together, restructure. Yes. Yeah. And we usually come out with very flexible processes thereafter that is agreeable to the customer, because we know that you won't just, because you lost your job, you won't just sit there. You look for something else to do. It could be business. It could be anything else that would give you income. You come, let's have the discussion and restructure the facility.
Now, give us your parting shots.
I think the one fundamental thing that I want to talk about in terms of purchase of apartments in Kenya as an industry is to really urge young people. I think the perspective we have in this industry is most Kenyans believe in constructing their own homes, or there's a lot more focus on high-end units, which is not bad. If you can afford, why not? The reality is the bigger population, which is the young people, are now shifting towards apartments. But the only part where I have a problem is, you're paying rent. And for once, please, developers or the mortgage owners, do not take this out of context. The only thing that I want to encourage is, as a young person, you have a whole future ahead of you. Take advantage now to purchase the apartment. It doesn't make sense for you to pay rent of $1,000, which is 100,000 Kenya shillings, for years. If you converted that into a mortgage, you end up owning that facility. So that's really my encouragement to young people.
Thank you very much, Edith Chumba.
Thank you.
And there you have it. Out to all the young people out there, such as myself and the guest over here. Make sure you take a mortgage, pay for the facility to own an asset instead of having to pay rent. Thank you for being with us from the start of the show to the finish. On next week's episode, I'll look at the most exquisite designs of apartments this side of the Nairobi metropolitan area and what it has to offer. We never like to say goodbye, but as always, if you want to advertise your property or seek advice, reach out to us on our Property Focus social media pages, and we'll have experts discuss these topics in our upcoming episodes. Property Focus on Facebook and Property_Focus_ on Instagram. Now, this has been most wonderful. I'm your host, Peter Ngigi.